generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back for another discussion on the Acolyte. Last week was a tough one to watch for us, and now we're here hoping for better. And I would say it was a little bit better than the third one, but that's just only because the bar was so low. This one, I mean, if the last week you could probably just walk over the bar, this one maybe jump an inch, but uh, we need to talk about what happened and what didn't happen, quite honestly. So let's just dive right into it. So we open the episode with our Wookiee friend, Kalnaka, and Kalnaka looks like he's making dinner. And what's important? What's
sorry.
that?
That reminded me of Shrek when he's like making dinner in his home and people are gonna soon invade his territory. And anyways, you can keep going. Kalnaka's at home.
It reminded me of the holiday special because we see, was it Mala always making dinner? But yeah, he's making dinner, and what the camera is focusing on in this scene is that the symbol that is on the symbol of the witches, I should say, is plastered around his house. So maybe he has some sort of weird obsession with the witches, or maybe when he left, they put some sort of like spell or curse on him, and he like plastered it around. Who knows? But it's really weird that it's all over his house.
Can I
Um,
just say his hair is awfully straight and particular for a Wookiee who nobody's heard from in like a year compared to Chewbacca, who is around people all the time.
yeah, who's Kalnaka trying to impress?
Yeah, he's pretty well taken care of. He's gotta keep his head shaved, you know. He's got kind of like a wolf tail thing going on the top. He's got a
He,
Wookiee barber somewhere in this forest.
yeah, he's living a good life. We only get a very short glimpse of what's going on with Kalnaka because we cut to the Jedi Temple again, and I did not catch the dude's name, but I know he's in Game of Thrones, the redhead guy. I think he's one of the wildlings in Game of Thrones, and he's also in a lot of. I think you were just doing the axe throwing. Isn't there a
I don't know. I was
commercial?
just pretending I had a little lightsaber out of this pen.
Oh, gotcha. He's in a lot of commercials, and I forget what the commercial is. I want to say it's some sort of like soap or something, but I don't know. But he's training the Jedi. They're all doing, some synchronized movements. But what's big here is that eventually, I think we pronounce her name as Jack. Uh,
Jackie.
Jackie. So Jackie has a small scene with Osha. They're just kind of discussing, having some small talk. And what's interesting about this scene is I didn't pick up on this at first, but the actress that's been playing Jackie came out on social media saying that that scene in particular, she was trying to make her character almost somewhat flirtatious with Osha. So there's some sort of connection there that Jackie is trying to engage with Osha. She has like a small crush on Osha. And we see that a little later on too, where they have a little discussion together.
It's awfully dangerous for a Jedi to have feelings.
It is. I didn't even pick up on that, quite honestly. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that's what were going for, or if it was more like um, a former Padawan to the new Padawan kind of relationship. Um, because they're both Soul's Padawans, of course. Um, and they did help her find May, I guess, technically in a way. So, but
Hey,
yeah, I did think it was a little odd that she was saying goodbye to Jackie, but not to Soul. I could feel those vibes from that scene now that you say it, now that you guys say that, but that wasn't what I was initially picking up from it. But yeah, they definitely ended that way because she says something like, "Hey, next time I'm in Coruscant, I'll look you up. We'll go do karaoke or something." So that definitely sounds like girls out on the town. Um, you know,
Girls just want to have fun.
they sure do.
After that brief scene, we do get a scene with May and Kiermere. I believe that's how you pronounce his name.
Keimer, it's
Keimer?
weird. It's really weird. Yeah, they don't say it very often.
Oh, okay. So Keimer. And they've arrived on the planet where Kalnaka is taking residence. Supposedly, uh, our guide here knows where Kalnaka is at. May doesn't seem to know, but it's very odd that the other dude does. But it's interesting because May is starting to talk about the process of fulfilling her duties, and she's kind of almost starting to hint that she doesn't want to be doing these things much anymore. She's kind of undecided. She hasn't like full-fledged come out and said it, but there's some hesitancy there. Uh, so eventually they start heading towards where Kalnaka is supposed to be. Did you guys pick up anything on that where uh like when you first started watching it, did you get the vibe that she was gonna eventually deter from her duty, or because I didn't see that coming, especially not thinking about in the past these people that are going down these dark paths. It takes something long and somewhat drastic for them to switch to go back to being a good person. What do you guys think?
It seemed very random. I feel like she tried to explain that the reason why was because of OSHA, but this is like, or at least it seems, several days after she saw that OSHA was alive, and she's still going through this mission to try to continue on with what she's doing. I feel like if OSHA was the reason, then she wouldn't have gone on this mission, or at least she would have taken an extra day or two to think about it and then maybe skipped the mission. It just the timing seems really random.
Hmm. Yeah, so far we haven't seen her struggle too much with like her master's teachings. So it would be nicer if we were able to see some of that conflict between the two of them. But so far, the only thing we've seen is, well, Soul sort of interpreted through a little Jedi mind stuff that she doesn't know his identity and that she's afraid of him. That's basically the relationship that we know. So it would be a lot nicer, I think, if we like saw a little bit of that relationship, saw her struggle with the teachings to kind of like be flipped to the other side. Because right now it just seems like she's like a double agent, like to me, anyways. I don't know. It seems like she's had a sudden change of heart. I mean, that happens a little bit later in the episode, obviously, but yeah, they start to like work up to it, I guess. Like it starts out with Keimer just being a little bit weird in the beginning. Um,
I think, to put it bluntly, I think the reason why it feels this way is because the writing feels kind of elementary when it comes to the shift in uh, May's perspective, because it seems like it just came out of nowhere. I had zero belief that she was going to do that this episode. No way. I mean, I know she saw her sister, and I could see her maybe trying to connect with her and maybe even persuade her to do what she's doing.
yeah, like was that the only catalyst? Was this dark side user just channeling her rage for like, oh, they took away your sister, your family, when really they took away the whole coven potentially. But I guess we don't know the full story on that yet. But obviously she wasn't as attached to them. I mean, obviously her mother. two mothers, I guess. But I would think Osha would be like her number one attachment. So thinking that the Jedi took away Osha could give her that rage, but then seeing that Osha's actually alive, I could see that definitely taking away some of her motivation. But it still seemed like she was pretty into the which ways when she was younger. So that's why it's weird that we haven't seen any of those next steps.
Yeah, the character development isn't quite there. It almost seems like it's there. It just appears almost in a way. Um, yeah, it's very awkward, and then we get more of that later on. But after that short scene, we do cut back to the Jedi. They are discussing, what is going on, how should they deal with what's going on with May, how could they potentially even find her, how could they bait her maybe? And we get a familiar face, right? We get Kyote Mundi in the mix of everything, and we know that it's Kyote Mundi because his name appears in the credits. And so, as soon as he was on screen, about 10 to 15 minutes after 9 o'clock, there was a resounding probably WTF amongst the world because Coyote Mundi does not exist, at least in the previous Star Wars lore at this point. And so his birthday was changed, went to the Secretary of State and got it fixed. And then now we are moving on to how can we actually make this work? And something that's interesting that is discussed amongst Coyote Mundi, and I didn't catch the other lady's name, she had like 2 lines, is that maybe what's going on is a splinter cult or group or whoever. And from what my understanding is that's kind of like almost rogue Jedi that decide not to agree with what's going on with the Jedi, but at the same time, they don't like join the Sith themselves. Is that what you guys were getting out of that?
Yeah, maybe a different sect of the Jedi, like they're maybe not too keen on reporting everything to the Senate, or maybe they just have their own, you know, I don't know, views on certain topics. But I think they are kind of worried that it's something worse, that it's something a little more dangerous.
It makes me wonder, like, because that I feel like that would be a really cool thing to explore. Like, we know about the Sith from the past, but these splinters, though, like something's really here. It would be interesting for them to almost elaborate on that. Like, why would we be concerned that there's splinters out there? What does that actually mean? Because I feel like the average viewer that may be watching this show for their first Star Wars experience, that could mean absolutely nothing and like completely go over their heads. So I think it would be over Coyote Mooney's big head. Um, but
As
I,
somebody who's seen lots of Star Wars, it went way over my head. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is. Just move on because it was like a one-liner and they didn't talk about it.
right. So that's what I mean. Like, maybe while they're discussing that, they talk about a separate incident that happened with a splinter group or something. That way we know what maybe the threat level or complexity is behind them. Um,
Yeah, like we don't even have to know the details. Just have them mention like, oh, that'd be like this one time that this one thing happened and these people were hurt, or our order had to change our ways or something. Like just have like some consequences or some reason for them to be like, I mean, obviously there's like Jedi are being murdered, so like that's already a pretty big deal. So it's already kind of a big issue, but
Something that makes me think it could be whatever they're talking about. Some little background. That would have been nice.
yeah.
so what I also think is interesting about this discussion is as the group is talking about this stuff and they actually like pull up on screen or hologram. I should say, is they show like the three Jedi that they believe are being targeted, and they show the two that have already been murdered, and then they show the third one being Kalnaka, which is interesting because I wouldn't the whole group be on there? Like my question is, why wasn't Soul on there? Why uh wasn't there at least one more, like five of them, or was it four? Because Indara
It
was
was four.
red. Indara was red. So was the guy that was meditating and then killed himself, Torben.
Yep.
Kaunaka was on there. Soul was not on there, but he was part of that group. I don't know. I just feel like the whole group wasn't on there. But as they're
Oh,
diving,
what? I thought Soul was on there, and it was the four people because she'd killed two of them so far.
was there four? I thought I saw three.
There was only three holograms, but
I,
they were kind of discussing it and saying that four Jedi are being hunted. At first they
Gotcha.
say three, but then she corrects to say four. You, Soul, you were being hunted as well.
Gotcha.
Um,
That conversation gets cut really short. And maybe a lot of people think that, when we're speculating who is the big baddie of the show, some people are saying that it might be this Master Vernestra or Vernstra is what her name is, the green lady that supposedly has the purple whip. I really don't think that this character is going to end up being the baddie, but she does stop the meeting fairly abruptly and then talks to Soul on the side, discussing how to go about getting May. And they basically come to the conclusion of, well, what if we use Osha as bait in a way? So they're going to travel to go find Kalnaka, and they're going to try to take Osha with them and hopefully maybe draw out May in that process. Um, OSHA is not quite on board with all this yet. When she was back talking to Jackie, she was basically saying some goodbyes, right? And so she was kind of like on her way out to leave the group. But right before we see Soul's interaction with OSHA, we do see, you said Keimer was his name? All right, I'm getting better with these names. Keimer and May, they are trekking through the mountains, and this is where May uh, is saying even more about potentially abandoning her duty to the collector. We also learned that Keimer has some sort of like debt with this dude too, because May is saying like, "What do you owe him?" And he was like, a couple things," and he's like really secretive about it. He said that this dude is a collector of people or something like that. So that's really interesting to me.
yeah, his dialogue is probably the least. It probably tells you like the least. Like he's the character I don't know what to think about. Like I'm like 50% on he's just some buffoon following this guy, and I'm 50% on like he is that guy. So I think that's like what they want us to think. Um, I I'm kind of hoping he isn't, and he's just some buffoon at this point, but
Yeah, I really
we'll
don't want
see.
him. I don't want him to be that character either.
But he does
I'm right
seem
at
to
the
have
same
a lot
page.
of insider knowledge. He's a good tracker. We've seen it. He's kind of slippery. He has some skills. So perhaps there is more to him than we have seen.
It
I
is kind
feel,
of. Go ahead.
I feel like if it was our main baddie, when Osha was pretending to be May in that like drugstore, don't you think he would have known or like felt the presence be different?
And
I
I
thought
think
he
he
did.
did catch on almost immediately.
Well,
That was
yeah,
kind of
from
the
like
vibes
her
that I got.
social cues, but and it seems like if you had that level of force sensitivity that you'd be able to tell without needing the social cues.
Well, isn't there
Yeah.
also the difference of the thing on their head?
Yeah, but their bangs cover it for the most part.
Yeah, so if wouldn't tell that until she was up
A-
close.
And at
But
that point, wasn't she also wearing a cloak?
Yeah,
we'll find out.
we will.
So maybe he's masterminding the whole thing. Like he wasn't too worried about OSHA showing up at the beginning because he had it all figured out.
Well, so one of the things I was kind of wondering is the people that are working under this big baddie, we know Keimer and May at this point. Well,
Yep.
we've already kind of talked about the Keimer as being very weird about it or hush hush, and it makes me wonder if, the people that are working for this dude, if they're supposed to kind of keep it a secret of what they're up to, and May is kind of like shooting her mouth off of what she's trying to accomplish, and uh, maybe May and all those other people might be part of Keimer's assignment, maybe. Like he's kind of traveling with her to make sure these people are getting checked off the list, and then his final one will be her. But that's just a guess.
Yeah, they have the potential to do some really interesting stuff. Um, between the dynamic between both sisters and with Soul and with this guy, I think they have the potential to do some really interesting character stuff at the end here. Um, or maybe even in the next scene that we see in episode 5, but depends what direction they take that. Um, but oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Keimer, yeah, he's very like deflective, and then he does make a complete switch when um I mean we haven't quite got to that part. It comes up later, but when Keimer's talking to May, it's hard to get the names. Um, when he's talking to May later, and she's kind of talking about, well, I'll just tell the Jedi everything I know about her master, whoever's been training her, and then Keimer does like kind of there's like a little switch flipped. Like he goes from being his little I don't know how to describe him, but he changes his attitude real quick. He jumps right to say it like, "Oh, he'll kill you if you reveal like his secrets." Um, so that makes you wonder. He seems to know a bit more about keeping things on the down low. He values it more, being sneaky.
Yeah. It also has kind of an idea of like taking the big baddie more serious, I think.
Hmm.
Um, After this little interaction, we keep jumping back and forth between uh May and Chimere and the Jedi, of course, and this is where Soul eventually convinces Osha to go on the mission with them to find May. And I don't know about you guys. Maybe I'm just being ridiculous with this show, but I feel like every Star Wars project we get the whole speech of they're still good in them. You have to understand. And I just kind of started to roll my eyes like, please stop shoving this down our throat. And so I don't know what you guys felt about that, but I was kind of in the give me a break category with having that dialogue over and over again in all these projects.
Well,
Uh,
this is so early in the Force, they have to still believe that and have hope and whatnot. You can't have their dreams be crushed yet, or all the rest of what we know wouldn't be true.
Yeah, it's hard
yes and no.
because I think it is one of the central themes of Star Wars, but at the same time, it is overdone. Um, the whole like flipping sides and all that stuff. But that's why this was very interesting because there was two twins and they were kind of on opposite sides. So now it's weird that we're seeing one flip. It'd be more interesting if we were like seeing them both flip or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Back to so in reference to what you mentioned in response to Jeremy. So I just want to clarify. The whole flipping back and forth thing, yes, I do think that is getting old. But the idea of the Jedi having hope that there's still good in people, I feel like that is a more central theme that they really can't stray from. They ha Even if the person can't be changed, I feel like the Jedi have to at least try or believe that they can. Now, May changing and wanting to be a good person again, that I'm really not a fan of. But the Jedi wanting her to be a good person, I think that's okay.
Yeah, and that lines up with Soul's character from everything we've seen. He's been a very virtuous, trying to see the good on the good side of things. Um, so I think that kind of lines up. It seems like he doesn't feel super comfortable using OSHA in this mission. They're not bringing her back in as a Jedi. They specify she's in civilian robes, and they make a little joke out of it when they take her to the planet. Um,
Yeah, she
so
gets
she's
a funny wardrobe change.
so she's only with them as part of the little entourage. Her and about eight Jedi maybe. Um, they're all looking for Kalnaka before May gets to them, hopefully. That's the plan anyway. Oh, and a tracker. I forgot about the tracker.
Good
Right.
That's
old Basil.
that's why they didn't have the budget for Kalnaka. They used it on the tracker.
Yeah, Basil.
They got enough Wookiee toys. We need Basil toys.
Basil was pretty cool, I will admit. I thought it was a cool character.
Yeah.
Um, so as the Jedi are on their way to Kelnaka, they do make a point that Kelnaka has not been responding to their transmissions. So, they got to go ahead and seek him out. And we do meet that new character, Basil. It looks like a little rodent type looking character. Um, it's kind of funny, I guess. OSHA's droid decides to squirt it with like a squirt bottle type mechanism within the droid. Don't quite know what the liquid was. Like, was it some sort of oil? Was it actually water? I have no idea, but it was really weird.
I just thought it was water, kind of like a clown squirting water out of their flower on their jacket.
Yeah, that's kind of how I picked it up as well. I believe she uses the pip droid to put out that like fire at the beginning, right? That like first episode.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So it must have some type of storage compartment for liquids.
Yeah, just make sure it's super secure so it doesn't short circuit.
Yeah.
When they get to the planet, Jackie uses quote unquote Google Translate to start talking to the locals, trying to figure out where Kalnaka could be. And they learn that he ventured off into the woods and never came back. And so we get like this somewhat haunting shot of the Jedi looking off into the woods of like, oh my God, he went in there. I guess we're gonna go. And so that's what Basil is here for. Basil is going to do a little sniff sniff of Kalnaka's clothing from the past, and then supposedly that's going to be how they track to where Kalnaka is now residing. We do jump back to Osha, and Osha is telling Yord as they're doing like this little Fellowship of the Ring walk across the mountains, and
That's exactly what
Osha
I thought of too.
same, yeah. And it's kind of funny to watch some of the extras that are with them because I don't know if you guys were paying any attention to those random people, but like our normal characters, they got their thing going on. And then like every single extra was like looking at the exact same thing. They were looking off into the mountain, the exact same spot. It was really funny to watch them walk by. Um, but they're talking to one another, and basically OSHA is telling Yord, like, hey, I'm admitting that when I saw May before, I pulled my shot. But if the opportunity represent or presents itself again, we need to do it for real this time. And so they kind of have a little discussion about that. Let's see. They do start trekking into the woods, and OSHA basically plays the dumb little kid where she starts touching things that she shouldn't be. There's these weird looking cocoon things that are on the trees, and when she touches one of them, another one comes around to like the defense and like attacks the group. And so Soul goes to kill this insect, ignites his lightsaber, and notices that the thing like it's coming at Soul, but instead of actually wanting to attack Soul, it's actually attracted to the light of the lightsaber. So he does kill the insect, but they make this weird mention of it's not attracted to us, it's attracted to the light. And so I was talking to Sarah while we were watching the episode, and I want your opinion here, Austin. I find it weird that they bring that up. Do you think they're going to use that as some sort of thing later on where that might be their getaway? Like, I'm wondering if this big baddie is going to have the upper hand, and then the Jedi notice that these insects are in the area, and so when his lightsaber is ignited, they turn theirs off so that the insects go after the big baddie and they can escape. Any thoughts on that?
You know, I like to have faith in the writers and hope that there's a payoff for that line, that entire scene, other than seeing one bug get sliced, which was cool. Seeing as how that was, oh, let me check and see on my notes here. The only action scene in the entire episode, besides one force push. That was pretty cool to see a bug get sliced, but aside from that, I'm hoping, because obviously there was no payoff for the light being attracted to the light this episode because it was so short. So hopefully, fingers crossed, there's something to do with the bugs
It
in the
just
next one.
it seems like such an awkward or um uh a scene to pull us out of what's happening. Like I get they're trying to add some context to this forest and whatnot, but at the same time, I wish we could have seen like a swarm come after them or the queen insect or something to present more of a danger. But it just kind of seemed like, oh, we need to add something in here to fluff some of the Star Wars lore while we're here. Give this planet something to breathe about.
I think it did two things. So the area they were walking through was all decayed and run down. They even make a comment about there being like death in the air or something. Um, but OSHA can still sense life. Those little pods on the trees, whatever they are, little moth things, she can sense that they're alive, and that's why the one wakes up, because she kind of like reaches out to sense it with the force. So OSHA is like starting to reestablish that connection. Um, so that's one thing we got out of that scene, and then the light comment that we brought up. Those are like my two takeaways.
Yeah, because
Um,
Jackie says later about how she's always happy to see people connect with the Force or something, some cheesy line like that about how
mhm.
she enjoyed seeing Osha do that.
Which is their second little interaction here in the episode. How we were talking about earlier that, they were really trying to make a point about these two characters interacting.
Right.
hmm Yeah, she does get a pep talk from Jackie pretty much right after this. Um, yeah, Jackie says like it's an honor to see any life transform into the true force or whatever, something like that. And then she tells her like um, they're kind of referencing May and if Osha's going to be able to confront her. Um, but Jackie tells her that she doesn't have to be, she's not defined by her past. It's about, like what she's survived. That's what makes you who you are. So I did think that was kind of like a nice line of any of them in this episode so far. I did think that was like a nice little takeaway. We don't always get those in Disney projects lately, so it is nice when there's a little underlying message.
Yeah, I would agree. As we switch back to our other group, we see May kind of contemplating something, and she pulls out what kind of looks like a whip, and she goes off camera, and we hear this like blood-curdling scream, and Keimer comes running through the forest, and basically Keimer fell for a trick, and he gets pulled into a trap so that he's dangling by his foot in a tree. I'm not quite sure how this trap really worked based on the fact that we only had the whip, but uh
I think it was rope.
Yeah, just rope.
right. I don't know how to trap things. I thought there'd be
May
more to it.
does.
Yeah, she does.
And
Didn't
Keimer fell for the oldest trick in the book, quite literally.
This is true.
What were you gonna
Even
say about it, Sarah?
I was gonna say, didn't Luke fall in one of those traps or something? But I think I might be thinking more of when they got caught in the net.
yeah, they got caught in the net with or from the Ewoks.
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen people be caught in this style trap many times, uh, if not in Star Wars, then in other shows and whatnot. I know this is the thing.
Hmm. And
Right.
aside from him being the jungle guide, he has seemed kind of like a low-ranking member of this little cult, whatever you want to call it. So I mean, it's plausible that a character like him would get, you know, caught in a trap like this.
Well,
Right.
and he had already walked through this area before, so he would have assumed it was as safe as when he just walked through a few minutes ago.
Right.
What's
Well, and
the
he's trying
what's
to help May too, so it's not like he's, you know,
what's the big thing that we get here from this scene?
Oh boy.
um, May seemingly has flipped. She hates hiking.
Yeah.
She OSHA's alive and May has a new purpose in life. So she's gonna turn herself over for the murders and then go from there. What step two? Good question.
Well, I know she's hoping to at least get a smaller sentencing if that's how it's going to end up happening by spilling the beans about this big baddie. But uh,
It's like a light bulb just all of a sudden went off in her head, and it's not that her face got brighter, but at the same time her face almost kind of got brighter, like she got more wide-eyed, like I don't have to do this anymore. Everything's going to be great. I'm like, what?
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
it doesn't feel quite earned once again.
right. Hours trekking through the jungle will do that to you. Just open up your mind. But yeah, the Jedi also hear the screaming, so they kind of start heading in that direction as well. We do get one more little talk between Soul and May. May says, you know, Soul, I'm ready for this. I can do it. Last time I missed a shot. I wasn't ready, but this time I'm your girl. I got this.
You mean OSHA?
Oh, Osha, I said May, right? Yeah, Osha's ready to face May. Um, and uh Oh, Soul's like, yep, we're both gonna do it together. We're gonna face our past, and then once we get May safely back on the ship, I'll explain everything. Oh, okay. So the audience is just like, can you just do it now? But anyways,
I had kind of wondered because when the scene begins and they're all walking and then he stops and then he looks very concerned. I had kind of wondered if he had felt in the Force Kalnaka's death because
yeah,
sometimes Jedi can feel it when things like that happen.
I wasn't sure about that. Those things are always hard to pick up on unless they make some sounds in the background or something. But Soul's definitely more in tune. He does sense later when the other presence shows up for sure. So it's hard to know. This guy's pretty stealthy too, so
Do you think? Because it's almost kind of tropey to do this. Do you think because Soul said when we get back to the ship, I'll explain everything? Do you think that that's going to imply that one or the other of those two may not make it back to the ship?
I believe there's definitely potential for that. Yes. I kind of, the way I saw this going is Soul's kind of going to be the final test. So I kind of saw him being like going through the whole series. Maybe the one Jedi Master that does make it through, but yeah, the other seven Jedi, I don't feel very safe about the rest of them.
Well, then let's kind of get to that part. So May is running through the forest trying to find where Kalnaka is because he's 10 minutes that way, according to our little tracker with Keimer. And so she eventually gets to the Kalnaka's little hut and she trips. And when she trips, she sees our little um,
Basil.
Basil friend. And he basically starts screaming like, "Hey, she's here," but in his own language. And so that's what gets the Jedi the rest of the way to the little hut. But before they get there, May does go inside and she's like, "Kalnaka, I'm here to see you," kind of a thing. And Kalnaka just kind of sitting in the chair all limp. And so when she goes up to Kalnaka, she realizes that there is a burn mark across his chest, which implies that might have been slashed with a saber. And so that's triggering in her mind, uh-oh, he's here. And so,
Before you go any further, I just want to say this scene was so weak. We didn't get to see how he died. We didn't get to see. It doesn't even look like he's dead. It looks like he's taking a nap and just has a little burn across the chest. Like it's where's the guts? I get that there's not supposed to be blood because it's a lightsaber wound, but like shouldn't he be cut in half or something? Like we should see some more substantial damage than just a little burn across his belly.
well, that's the thing too. Like in The Force Awakens, Finn gets a whole slash up his back. And so with the fact that Kalnaka's not cut in half, does it necessarily mean he's dead? Maybe not. But part of me believes that he is.
I mean, they didn't show him breathing or anything like that, or like reaching out for May, not knowing who she is and just wanting help, or like there's nothing.
Yeah. What
I
do you
could
think, Austin?
I could go on and on about this, but I will be concise. I will try to be concise. The burn mark, I don't have too much to say about it. It looks controlled, is what I'll say. It looks like there was no struggle. So one of two things happened. This guy here is clearly the murderer, but he either used his spooky floating powers, got the jump on him, or two, he's just that powerful that he was able to just like force hold the Wookiee still, give him a nice clean burn across the chest, just enough to say lights out. So he was making dinner. He had just sat down, had a nice meal planned, and then
So,
he had to interrupt with
do you think
murdering.
he had his last meal or do you think he was killed before
What
it?
was he cooking? I have no idea. I have no idea.
Had that bantha meat, just like Mala. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh, so the big baddie isn't the quote unquote the acolyte. I'm pretty sure it's the May is trying to be it. So this big baddie, they can use the lightsaber to kill, right? Because they keep emphasizing you can't use a weapon to kill these people, blah blah blah.
The whole description of why you can't use a weapon is kind of gone above my head. I don't really understand the why, but when we previously looked up what an acolyte was, it was kind of like a follower who helps like the true definition is somebody who helps in religious ceremonies, but like a follower, not necessarily the leader. So if our big baddie is the leader, then the acolyte could be May or Keimer or both.
Right.
Yeah, the no lightsaber, the no weapon thing to me is that kind of goes along with them just trying to hide in the shadows. Maybe like trying to, the Sith are not supposed to be around at this point. They're staying very on the down low. Um, which is why another reason we're not too hopeful for anyone who's seeing this guy with the red lightsaber in the scene. Um, it just yeah, I guess I don't know where I was going with that, but the hmm, sorry, because you guys were talking about like the acolytes. Yeah, I guess I kind of assumed this guy was the acolyte, but maybe he's just like full on Sith. And we find out who that is later. And then maybe May is the acolyte. Yeah, I don't know, but it could be multiple people. You're right, Sarah, about that. We don't really have
Maybe
too
it's like the Mandalorian, where it starts as one person and now it's somebody else.
right. It builds. It builds on itself. They're building a dark side collection.
Yeah. We do, and arguably my favorite, but also probably least favorite part of the episode, just because of the way it's handled. Um, we do see the Jedi approach the hut, and they're saying, "Hey, anybody that's in that hut, you better come out." And then even uh Yord, even he like kind of does the parent thing. You too, May Anasea, like calling her by her last name. Um, and we see May kind of like look to the side, and then we see her look back as if she's really trying to, look out through a little peephole in the door. And we see a shot with Osha and her gaze as she's looking towards the Jedi and the hut. And we see this little dark thing float into the shot, and it's coming towards Osha.
Yeah, Soul's the first one to turn around.
Right. And so Osha eventually turns around and is face to face with our big baddie. Still don't really know what to call them. Um,
Smilo Ren.
yeah, Smilo Ren.
That's the one I saw online. I thought it was pretty funny.
And so this being is staring at Osha, ignites the lightsaber, and is basically watching the fear in Osha's eyes, and then puts their hand up, does a quick motion, and chucks her across the little area that they're in, and then quickly snaps its gaze over to, well, so this is what Sarah and I were talking about, because Sarah, what was the thing that you said about the head snap?
So Osha is right in front of the big baddie, and all of the Jedi are directly behind Osha. So with him standing straight, everybody's in front of him. And he flicks Osha off to the side and then immediately turns to his left as if he's looking at the Jedi. But the Jedi aren't immediately to his left because they were right behind Osha. So it's a really weird. He flicks her to the side and then immediately looks like he's going to attack the Jedi next, but they're not supposed to be off to his left. They're supposed to be right in front of him. And when they cut
Correct.
to a different camera angle, they're still right in front of him and he's looking straight at them.
Boy, Sarah, they need to hire you to set up the scenes just to get the coordination down, where people should be standing, where they should be looking, how it should be cut together. Like they could
Well,
learn a thing or two.
so
It's as if, oh, sorry, Jeremy, I'll let you go in a second. It's as if it's like you're saying, Sarah, when she gets flicked to the side, it's as if he like follows her, and then he's supposed to snap his head back to the Jedi. But he doesn't do that. He's just looking forward the whole time to make it look cool, and he pushes her to the side. But then he looks to the left when the Jedi are this way. That's pretty funny.
You
Yeah.
get it.
And so what I was trying to rationalize to help myself sleep at night is I had half wondered if his gaze was not on the Jedi when he snapped his head. Like, what if he was looking in May's direction of the door? Because we were told in the episode he'll kill you. So what if he doesn't care about the Jedi? What if he just wants to kill May? Because like, why didn't he kill Osha?
New recruit?
Yeah, that could be.
I don't know.
Would you want to join someone that just checked you?
I don't know anything anymore. I thought we were gonna see a Wookiee Jedi. I've been hearing this for 4 episodes. You know what we saw? A Halloween decoration. I'm so upset.
Ouch.
They had such a low bar. They do literally anything with a Wookiee Jedi, and it'll be heckin' awesome. And they
It'll
just propped him up in a chair, dead.
maybe we'll get something in the flashback. 'Cause
Yeah.
I could have sworn we saw in the trailer the Wookiee like swipe a lightsaber. I could have sworn, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, you may be right. I hope you are. They either got some trailer wizards or there's another flashback that we haven't seen yet, which wouldn't surprise me because there's a lot we don't know.
Well, here's some interesting speculation for you guys, okay? Little May or Little Osha, right? I'm looking at IMDb because we hit the end of the episode. The end of the episode is basically them facing off, and we don't get to see any battle. We just see Osha get pushed aside,
We
and
see,
everybody turns on their lightsabers. That's
yeah,
it.
well, they charge him and we see a huge, huge, huge force push. It pushes all those Jedi back at once. So that's kind of like a big deal, but
Yeah.
that's all we see. End credits, like cue credits.
So
I
trying to think of where we're going next.
I was gonna say I thought that ending was very weak. I think they should have ended it right with your picture behind you, Austin, where it was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Instead of like I was telling both of you, it seemed like we were watching a show and then someone turned the channel or someone turned the TV off when it cut because it was so awkward. Because I think we both went, what? when we saw it happen.
Yeah.
Because to a point, it makes me want to see it, but at the same time, I'm like, I felt so disrespected.
Hmm.
All right, go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. So I'm looking at IMDb and who is credited for how many episodes and what episodes, and this is stuff that like I feel like I probably shouldn't be looking at because you think of like the old way to watch shows, you wouldn't know any of this information, but it's here, it's available. I'm gonna look at it.
It has been
So
changing a little bit, but yeah.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. It'll change.
I have seen some changes too, but anyway, the girl who plays Little May, May when she's a kid, she is credited for episodes 1, 2, and 3. That's it, at least for now, right? But Mother Anastasia is credited for episodes 1, just as a credit, right? 3, that was our flashback episode, but she is also supposedly credited for episodes 5, 6, and 7. So somehow Mother Anastasia is credited for the next 3 episodes, but not Little May, which makes me think it's not a flashback and somehow she's not dead and she's playing a hand in what's going on in present day.
That's interesting.
Huh.
Um,
That's what I have to say to that.
she could be. I kind of interpreted it as they were dead,
They did show
but
her laying on the ground.
yeah, potentially they could have faked it, or there could be something where because May
Well,
did get the symbol.
Soul was the one who was pulling Osha so quickly past her, just saying that she's dead, but maybe she was just passed out.
Yeah, that's true. We don't see like the wounds on any of those people. We just kind of like save the girl and get out. So yeah, we'll have to see what happened to all those people if any of them actually made it out, or maybe the idea of them made it out. Because they did complete like half of the Ascension ceremony with May. So maybe that there's some significance to that, hopefully. Because we still don't really know what that's about.
I don't mind seeing her in flashbacks for the next few episodes, but I really don't know how I'll feel if she's in the present day.
What if she's the big baddie? The Force isn't a
She could
weapon,
be.
but I'll use it to shove my kid aside.
That's true. And I'll use this red lightsaber.
That would
Not the Force.
I'm just saying here, hold on a second. It would be very interesting because they always talk about how Star Wars is poetic, and in the flashback we see her pushing one and then pushing two, and if she's becoming more powerful, can she now chuck 8 of them?
She pushes many. I get it. I get it.
Whoa. If that ends up being real,
All right, Jeremy, make the TikTok, not the TikTok, but make the
ah,
YouTube short now. All right, guys, here's my theory. See Mother Ada say a push once. We see her push twice.
and then we
We
see
see
her
her push many.
many.
It
The
says
other thing I was
her
going to mention
confirmed.
is you talked about thinking that Soul is the only one who's going to make it out from that group of Jedi as a potential possibility. Jackie is credited for the rest of the episodes, like the rest of the season.
Okay.
Now, I
Yeah.
know this stuff is all subject to change, but at least that's what it says right now.
No, now that you say that, she's another one I could definitely see because they are playing up that relationship between Osha and Jackie. So I think maybe in this battle, one of them gets hurt or is in danger, and the other one's going to have some kind of reaction.
You mean like a Rose and Finn thing all over again?
Yeah, we'll hope it's better than that, but yeah, that's kind of what I could definitely see that happening the way this show's going. They're definitely playing on those like person on person conflicts and emotions.
Soul is one who's hard to say. I think he's only been credited for up until the current episode every week. Like last week it says he was for 3 episodes. This week it says 4 episodes. So he's
It's
kind of
the
like a wild card.
it's the same thing for the Vernestra person because we know from the trailer that we're gonna see that purple whip, and she's the one. So, uh, hers is gonna have to get updated too.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Oh my goodness, you guys. Apparently, okay, I just want to make sure I know this is Helnaka was the Wookiee Jedi, yes?
Yep,
Because supposedly he's credited for episode 7.
and that's when we
okay.
get the rest of the flashback.
That'll be the flashback then. That's gotta be. Because he's dead.
That's
That's the only
probably
way they can.
it.
Or he's still alive. Sarah's early on the still alive, even if we see the bodies.
I
I
don't.
don't believe it till it's burned in their religious Jedi ceremonies. Then we'll know.
I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but it makes me wonder if it's gonna be if he's in episode 7 and if he's part of a flashback. I wonder if it's going to be part of a sequence where like Soul or somebody is like pleading to Osha or May to help them or something, and they're trying to convince them to stay with the Jedi, and they're explaining what happened. Like, if all else fails, this is what happened. Here's the honest
We'll
truth.
finally tell you the whole story. Yeah.
Right. And then that's when the flashback happens, is my guess. But it's as Austin has said in the past, I think this is very tinfoil hat, especially with trusting IMDb to be up to date.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't have all the information. They just update it as things get released and press stuff, and it's
Just
interesting
one
to
to think
think
about.
about. Yeah,
Yeah. It's still fun to speculate.
cool. Well, yeah, overall, I'm very let down. I don't know if it seems like you guys kind of feel that way as well.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with what I said last week. I feel like it's more fun to theorize with you guys than it is to watch the actual show.
Yeah. This was the shortest one we got, like
Oh, that
28
made me so
minutes or
mad.
something. Like to me, they just wasted a weekly release. But uh, you know, the potential is there for next week, I guess, which is what we were saying last week and the week before that. But I'll say it one more time.
Eventually, we have to run out of time.
Yeah,
This would have
there's
been
only four more episodes. We're halfway through.
right. This would have been a great time to have a double episode, in my opinion, like they've
Yeah.
done for the Bad Batch. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. Um, but yeah, I feel definitely let down. I think you mentioned Austin off segment that it basically was kind of like a nothing occurred. We just are ready for the next episode, so to speak. So I don't know. I'm I told Sarah I want to like this show. I really do, but they have not been giving good reasons to like the show every week. And so it's kind of hard. It's a very love-hate relationship right now.
Yeah. At first, I was there for the action. That was kind of keeping my attention. Because I do think the fighting style that they've incorporated is really cool. Um, but you know, we didn't get any action this one. We just saw a butterfly get chopped
Mhm.
by a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Um, and last week was even less action because it was a flashback with some chanting. So we're lacking in the last two episodes. So hopefully we do actually get to see a little bit of action next episode. I don't know how we couldn't, but this show has put my expectations so far down at this point, that
I feel like this fight next week has to have some sort of layering to it because in the trailer, when we see all the Jedi with their lightsabers ignited, it looks like they're in a cave. When he like chucks the lightsaber and it goes around from like a saber throw. So I'm half wondering if they kind of get the upper hand on him and he like tries to run away and then they try to ambush him in a cave and then crazy things happen. Just the surroundings did not look the same to me based on the two, but I'm hoping it's a good fight. Anything else we want to talk about for the episode?
I think we got everything I
May
want to
the,
talk about.
may the force be with us all.
Oh, I mean, did we talk about the entrance, the bad guy entrance? I mean, that was like 10 out of 10. That was pretty cool.
I actually really liked it. I was surprised to see on social media that people were ripping it apart, the whole floating in and stuff. Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah, I thought that was cool as hell. Like
I thought it was cool. It was unique. I like literally watching the episode and that entrance happened and then the whole flick and then the face turn. I was ready for something to really go down. Like I was pulled in, and then when they cut it, I was so
instant
betrayed.
instant upset. Yeah. Nope.
Right.
I went through the exact same thing. I was like, all right, this episode, the last 2 minutes of this episode have been so cool. Oh, it's over. Dang.
Yeah, definitely the best part of the episode because that was the first time where I actually felt like this character was even a threat. Like people have talked about this character, but just the stature and the movements of the character, I was like, "Oh, we are in for it, buddy. Go bad guy."
Yeah.
But yeah. So that was our discussion on the latest episode of The Acolyte. That was episode 4. So we are looking forward to episode 5, getting into the transition into the second half of the show. And we've had a lot of build up so far, and we finally get an interaction with our big baddie, and hopefully we get some sort of satisfying uh, duel with the Jedi and this big baddie next week. If you enjoy this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Drop us a like if you like the video. and drops a comment letting us know all of your thoughts about episode 4. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.